and welcome to Madoka Magicast, the podcast devoted to the dark magical girl anime Madoka Magica. I am your host, Amanda, and I'm normally here with my two co-hosts, but today we are doing part 2 of special episodes about Wonder Egg Priority, which is a recent magical girl anime. We think it's a magical girl anime that it qualifies. That made a splash and then made people mad and then made other people go, don't be mad. And then we're talking about it.
And then we all talked it out. We all came to a resolution, and we understand it better now.
Yeah,
there were no loose ends at the end of the last episode at all. No problem.
This part 2 is completely just a outfit analysis episode.
Oh my god, I want her hoodie so bad. I want that hoodie with the sunflower.
Yes, it's pretty darn cute.
But yet there were a lot of things that we didn't even touch on because we got very focused on picking apart what probably amounts to like 2 minutes of episode 13.
But I think we ended up talking quite a lot about other stuff. Like a lot of other elements of the show and stuff through all of
and
that,
also all of the discussion I think was very warranted. I just think it's very funny that we only talked about like basically one scene.
I do apologize for that, but in some way it's a show that invites that level of
it does. Yeah. It really does.
I think it was maybe foolish on our part to think that we could do this in one episode.
Yeah, probably. So where we left off last time was starting to talk about Momoe, I believe. So why don't we, instead of jumping straight ahead to I think what you specifically had brought up, Alice, why don't we just talk about, to start with, like Momoe herself and who she is and what the deal is with her? Yeah.
Amanda, I know that you feel very passionately about Momoe, so
yes.
Would you like to?
Sure, I would be happy to. So Momoe is kind of like the most normal character in a way among the four main girls. She is introduced to us in the 4th episode of the show in a way that kind of obscures the fact that she is a girl, because her character design is done in a way that makes her look very boyish by anime standards, and she wears kind of more boyish clothing. And it's only about halfway through the episode that she says that she's a girl. So I think it kind of becomes a little bit more clear earlier than that. But I think you're probably led to believe, you're introduced to her in a way where she appears to be a boy.
Or at least ambiguous.
Yeah. Your first impression of her is not that she is clearly female.
Very Haruka, Sailor Uranus.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a, and I really like this character quite a lot, and one of the and I'm not going to say that there's no criticism to be made of her, so
I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, I know Alice had some stuff to say about one episode later on involving her and a transgender character, but for Momoe specifically, I'm quite fond of her just because I would consider her kind of a more modern take on a trope that is decades old.
Yes.
Which is the girl who is sporty and tall and strong and boyish on the outside, but really is very feminine and soft on the inside and wants to be taken more seriously as a girl. Sailor Jupiter is a very obvious example of that. Probably more than I can even begin to name that are just not coming to mind. And so at first it's something that I think ran the risk of falling into something a bit overdone, but I think the show treats her with enough nuance and awareness of like what modern day youth are dealing with in terms of how viewpoints on gender and such are changing, that I think it was done in a fresh kind of way. And I don't know, I just, there was something just about her that's great. And I've never related to Sailor Jupiter, even though I know people really like her, but I really liked this character related to her. So yeah, I don't know. I hesitate to label her as non-binary or as...
I know that there's been a lot of discussion about the, like, there being indicators in the episode that Momoe is a trans girl, and I'm not qualified to speak on that. Maybe Alice can. I don't know if Alice has opinions on that or not, but I've seen a lot of people online interpreting her as being a trans girl in a lot of ways. But I know that also there's been a lot of like identifying with her from a non-binary perspective as well.
Yeah, that is not at all how I
I've
interpret the
seen the
character
trans girl
personally.
stuff a lot
Yeah.
on Tumblr and in some places on Twitter.
My people are prolific and everywhere. Like, sort of like cats, like first there's just one neighborhood cat, and then there's lots of neighborhood cats.
I thought you were talking about the musical. I was like,
I mean, also like that. I mean, also the incessant horniness. So, like, yeah, it works either way.
But Momoe, for me, I think the reason I love her so much, and I would specifically, if I had to label her as anything, which I don't know if I'm necessarily even comfortable doing that, but if I did, I would call her probably non-binary, and I'm non-binary, so that's probably why if I had to come up with a reason why I'm biased any one way, that would be why. But the fact that she doesn't necessarily she cares more about how people treat her, I think, than the way that she looks, if
right.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. And I think that
Yeah.
is kind of what resonates with me, because that's always how I've felt, and it took me a long time growing up to really understand that aspect of my gender identity and why it still doesn't fit into any specific label and why I just go with non-binary. So that
Yeah.
aspect of her character is something that I really liked. So, were you going to say something, Kai?
Oh, I don't have a reading or I know a lot of people like to look at that and kind of take it in that way. I was kind of just saying like from a Drosselmeyer-esque Princess Tutu kind of way that her issue of being a very tall and sporty woman and then not being perceived as a man sets up for some brilliant drama surrounding her in relation to, I think our first episode is the sexual abuse, and that's her introduction episode, the
Right.
monster of the day. And then her second episode is the trans boy, and then the final episode for her is about, oh, she has this brilliant like drama surrounding being asked out on a date, and then
Yeah.
the person mistaking her for a boy, and it being a, yeah, someone, yeah, that was just, ugh, it was really raw, it
That
was
was
really
very
honest.
sad. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
very, very sad. And she tries to play it off. She says to them, like, I need you guys to laugh at this, please. Because you could tell that
Oh yeah, that
how
was the raw
terrible.
bit of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Please laugh at it with me, please. Like, she asks them to laugh at her. And it's like, no.
Mhm.
And
Right.
even I looks at her. Like, there's a shot immediately after she says that of I just looking at her like, wow,
Yeah.
that must have been horrible to have to
Yeah.
go and do that, and how humiliating that would have been. Yeah. And I don't know, I just really like her. The reason I say she's the most normal is because other than her gender identity issues, she doesn't really have the same kind of severe trauma that the other three girls have, although she was pretty clearly sexually assaulted by her friend that she's trying to, or if not sexually assaulted, then very uncomfortably sexually propositioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
Yeah.
the yeah, outside of all the stuff that creates the drama around her, it's so cool to see her. The moment I specifically remember is the episode where she I think it's episode 9, where they go, Nehru's episode, where they go to Nehru's big complex and everything, and then she brings a what is it called, like a
Nail painting set.
takoyaki fryer,
Oh, the
or I don't know what it
takoyaki
is.
fryer. Yeah.
Is it, yeah, and then she's like looking, they're like giving all this plot exposition, and she's looking at her takoyaki fryer like she was just gonna sit around and chat for a little while, and now she has to watch this presentation on this screen and everything, and she's like,
Why is she so prepared?
no, she's trying to have some friends. Well, yeah, in the way that she is very clearly just looking not for pain, not for the glamour of the what's been thrust upon her, but just somebody to be there and to be seen in the way she wants to be seen is just. Yeah.
Yeah, so since we got a little bit of an introduction to her, Alice, do you want to talk? Should we talk about the episode 9? Was it episode 9 that has her?
7,
Or
right?
was it
I have a
7?
list of
I
episodes
think
up
it's
here.
7.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
7. I'm sorry.
episode 9 is the one with
Kotobuki.
No,
Kotobuki.
Okay, okay. So
I'd
episode
waste so
7.
much time looking.
yeah, I have a list here. I'll put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
so why don't we talk about episode 7? One thing I wanted to point out at the outset is that I did hear some people, especially at the beginning of all of this, object to this episode to some degree because I think Kaoru is his name.
Yes.
Because Kaoru was in a Wonder Egg, and Wonder Eggs are supposed to only be girls. And people seeing that and saying, what is this? What the fuck, Wonder Egg?
It is.
You mean an anime not
Well,
well articulating the intricacies of the trans experience?
well, it's not even that. It's me going, kind of what we were talking about in the first episode, me going, you guys need to remember that Akka and Ura-Akka are the people making these Wonder Eggs.
That's
These are
kind of how I took
people.
it. Like
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
yeah, they don't. And the intradiegetic or the you said the Watsonian and the Doylist reading that this is the Watsonian of
Yeah,
we can
these
explain that away pretty easily with the plot.
Yeah.
these two men dealing in gender essentialism are not going to acknowledge that Kaoru is a boy.
Oh
Real
yeah,
quick,
very
Okay.
I would ask, is that do we know that explicitly? I assumed, but
I
I
don't think
didn't
it's
remember
said
that it
anywhere.
been.
No.
Yeah, I thought it had been confirmed. That was a weird point for me as well.
I know that in the recap, like in the recap for episode 13, I says that they make the eggs.
Okay.
She actually walks, you know how she walks through, like, to get to where they are, they go under that bridge, right? And then they walk
Yeah.
into, it's like an old arcade and bowling alley. Like, you remember that area? Like, that's on the way to wherever it is that they are. And you see this, there's another shot where Rika goes down a slide and, like, doesn't come out the right spot that she's supposed to come out of. Like, they keep her out of their garden. And she's like, hey, why didn't you let me in? And then, like, there's other shots where Ai goes down the slide, and then that's how she gets down there. In a bunch of those kind of scenes, there's actually walls and walls and walls of what look like washing machine
Yeah.
tanks with, like, a
Yeah.
circular window, like a washing machine, and you can see the Wonder Eggs in these tanks,
I do remember
like,
that,
being
yeah.
made. Yeah, so they make the Wonder Eggs. Like, they're the ones making them.
Oh yeah, here there's.
Yeah.
I found the exact line. There's a screenshot. They're the ones who made the eggs.
Yeah. I remembered
I'll
seeing
put
that.
it up. Yep. Good call. Good memory.
That does change how you read that because
Yeah.
otherwise it is a little weird.
Yeah, I understand why people would have that reaction.
Especially, well, I don't think that at that point they had said specifically, like, Akka and Ura-Akka have made the eggs, so there isn't that, like, you don't really have the chance to make that Watsonian interpretation of the fact that Kaoru is in an egg.
It's no, but it still didn't necessarily strike me immediately as, like, a what the fuck moment, because
Sure.
I guess up to that point I had been so suspicious of this entire system to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
That, like, I kind of, like, I feel like I just kind of wrote that off as being what the deal was. Does that make
I mean,
sense?
they
yeah,
still-
like,
Yeah.
you can definitely arrive at that point. I just
Yeah.
mean that they hadn't, like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't blame people for
yeah.
bringing up the issue.
Like, honestly, I don't even blame people if somebody misses, like, that interpretation, that kind of subtle current that Uraka and Akka are just motherfuckers, like bad people, you know?
These are gay people I do not respect.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is kind of on a one layer of subtext, not very, very subtle subtext, but it is, not. They do not get their comeuppance. They're not shown to be in error in the stuff that we have so far with Wonder Egg Priority. So
The first time you meet them, they don't seem that bad. Like the very first time,
Of course.
they're just weird.
It's really not
And-
until the Frill episode that you really
Right.
understand.
But
what's
even
going on
in
with
that, you're kind of like, it's like presented from their point of view, so you're kind of like,
Oh, sure, they're
Uh,
definitely
yeah.
sympathetic in that.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Frill at all. I know. So you guys
Well,
have been talking about, like, oh, Frill needs to get redeemed, or someone has to help Frill. I'm sitting here like,
I don't know that
I don't know if that's necessary, really.
That's what I'm saying about the whole parallel thing between
Yeah.
Kotobiki and the teacher and everything.
Yeah,
and
I
Frill
know.
is like,
Yeah.
God, we've only heard the Uraraka side of the Frill story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then like Frill is this final boss in like this very Dark Souls-esque, hiding in a corridor, in a burned out corridor, and is just waiting there, and they're just waiting, and everything else is so magical girly about it, about all the friendships and everything, that I just can't see it resolving in any other way than them meeting Frill, learning her side of the story, and then holding their Aka and Uraraka accountable for what they've done.
Season 2?
That's what I'm saying. Or
really...
a movie, yeah. But
It does seem that, like, the way that they tell the Frill story, it feels like that's what they are trying to do.
Yeah.
That does seem to be where it is going, or where it wants.
I have to say,
seems
that's
to be
the only way
Yes.
that it can kind of play out at this point that will satisfy me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
100%.
But I will say this. There was a point during the story where I would not have said that. Like, if we had rewound to before we had seen some of the final episodes, where I would have said...
Before the Frill episode, I would say.
Well, first of all, we can probably fill an entire hour about whether we even needed that episode. First, number one.
Okay. Yes.
Number two, even with that episode, going back to what I was saying before, like, these two men are misogynistic motherfuckers. They created a fake girl based on their misogynistic concept.
They had a child to save their marriage.
Of what a 14-year-old girl is like.
God.
I wouldn't be against this fake, false idea of what women are from a misogynistic point of view being the ultimate bad guy villain who doesn't get redeemed and just gets shot in the face at the end.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Now, the problem with that...
Now we're going back to the Sailor Moon manga
No, well, I know.
What we're doing.
Listen, Kai, we cannot get back into that. We cannot get back into that. Okay? But, like, the problem now with that is that now Nero is an android now. So, like, now we have to care about the androids as real people.
And which is just like what I was going to do anyway, so I feel justified and haughty.
Yeah,
so,
same.
I mean, I don't really like that personally. I don't care for that with Nero. That's almost feels like, I don't want to say a retcon, really, but being a test tube baby is not the same thing as being an android. And like,
can I pry you here? Can I say
how
what is the
old?
difference?
I have so many questions now that Nero is an android. How old is she?
Sure.
Does the people around her know that she's an android? It's established that androids don't age. Do the other people at the company know that she is an android and that she hasn't aged in however so many years? When was she made?
So your problems with Nero the android are purely plot related or crunch related, they would say.
Well, it's a weird thing to inject into the story at like the last second.
So you don't have any problem with
so much of the other stuff that we've seen? I don't know. It's just, that was another situation where it was like, we didn't need this in the same way we didn't need the Frill episode. There was enough going on for you to work with. You didn't have to suddenly inject all of these elements into the story. You know?
And I think that I feel the same way because it hasn't paid off yet. But I think that having there could be a Wonder Egg priority that didn't go down that rabbit hole, and maybe it would be good too. But so you don't have any problem with android as person and kind of that whole theme of like what makes a person, and because I linked a picture of shout out to Lulu Amore, my favorite magical girl, who is also an android, and learns to.
And where is she from? Because you didn't tell me earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hugto Pretty Cure.
Okay. I thought she kind of looked like a Precure, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not that specifically that I have a problem with. Like those themes. Yeah. It's not that. I do have a little bit of an issue though with Frill being a girl made by guys who do not understand women. And she's apparently a programmed AI made to be a girl by guys who don't know what girls are.
I actually have more problem with the program part than the rest of it.
Yeah, it's like, and now that character is going to get redeemed.
More in a crunch way, not a fluff way.
That's the whole point. That's the whole
Go
point. It's like
ahead.
the men. It's the Utna shit. It's the men don't describe what makes a woman or what makes a human being. And these guys aren't God. They're not,
Except
yeah,
for when you inject sci-fi into magical girl shows, and that's literally what they did.
no, that's what makes it all the more
That's what they
powerful.
think
That's the
they
Ludo
did.
Lore stuff. Yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
created something, it evolved. It's the Battlestar Galactica thing of the Cylons are actually people too. You know, it's the whole like
Yeah.
yes, you can redeem something that is a human being is not just somebody that is born from a womb. You know, it's somebody that thinks and acts and feels, and Frill is just as valid. And that's the whole thing in episode that why I
Yeah.
like that Frill episode, because they say you're a monster, but she's like, no, I'm Frill, and like
No,
appreciating
well,
somebody
yeah.
in their holistic entirety is that makes it all the more powerful when she's just some random android creation.
If she was a monster, she could not do evil acts. She would not be a moral being,
Right,
but
she's got
the
free will.
but she is, because she is capable of moral reasoning, and in fact employs it. She is a person. Like I would like to say I'm kind of with you on that bit. I had some weirdness about the crunch. I guess I like that sort of crunch fluff
Totally, yep.
thing there. Like the crunch of the way that Wonder Egg does AI is weird, and I feel
Yes.
like there are several ideas there that would be cool if we had had about 10 more minutes to explore them. But as they exist, and what we have seem a little. They're things that feel ad hoc because they are not. We do not have the connective tissue
Right,
um,
yes.
that would make them
Yeah.
But the
work.
thematic
It's
background is there.
yeah,
You could see where it's
Yeah.
the
going.
thematic background, we can piece it together. It is kind of unfortunate that you have to do that instead of it being
Yeah,
there
sure. Yeah.
for you to piece together. Like it'd be kind of like, we could just have imagine Blade Runner if we don't really talk about the nature of replicants. You could
Right.
kind of piece together part of it from what you know about that other media, but it would be a lesser movie at that
Imagine
point.
Blade Runner if you don't get any of the scenes where the replicants talk to each other or about themselves.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Frill feels like to me.
Can I make a dumb joke real quick?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Akka and Uraraka are like, I have made a girl, and we are like, you fucked up a perfectly good AI is what you did. Look at it. It's got anxiety.
Look at it. It wants to kill any other girl that you bring into your family. Good job.
Continue
'Cause
with the
women-
real
Because
conversation.
that's what women do, right? They're jealous and emotional.
Women, am I right?
Am I right? Good job, guys. You made a woman.
You meme, but it does present this great way of
Yeah.
presenting Uraraka and Akka as complete shitbags. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, like,
and
why
that's
is
what I'm saying. Like, Frill makes sense to me in that way.
I'm not going to
You
bring
know?
up the other topic that we talked about in the last episode, but that's one of the reasons that I feel so weirdly about the other thing that we already talked about, is because I feel like they've done such a good job with sensitively talking about and demonstrating a lot of other things previously in the show, including the fact that I think it very much comes across that Akka and Uraraka are like total shitbags, even if one of them might be like a slightly more sympathetic shitbag.
I'll
Uraraka
agree with
seems to have some actual
Yeah.
regret to some of what he has done.
Yeah.
Akka seems to have no regret whatsoever. Yeah.
He is aware of the fact they fucked up.
It's always the pretty ones. We're back at Utna. It's always the pretty ones.
Akka wants his daughter back, and he does not care how he gets her back.
You know what bothered me, I think, a little bit about Frill?
What's up?
In the Frill episode. So, like, go on a walk with me here. What is weird about the way that they present not only Frill, but the concept of AI as it works in this setting is they seem throughout genuinely shocked at all of her leaps. Which I would say, okay, they've designed this to learn. But the way they respond to her seems to suggest that, like, that we don't get any sense that they expected her to learn stuff
Yeah.
in the way she's learned, which kind of made me go like, wait a minute, you made her, right? Like, you at some point, yeah, even if you program her to learn and to conceptualize her own, you made the baseline, right? Shouldn't you have a little bit more insight into this? And it's unfortunately, because we don't have enough space for them to really examine that. We really only have that single episode to get that. and they have so much shit to cover, you end up in this weird situation where the people who made Frill seem almost clueless about why Frill would be this way,
Yeah,
and it's weird. It's weird. It's not like insurmountably weird. It's just it kind of gave me go. It kind of like made my head hurt for a while.
like in a character plot writing kind of way, right? It's like to
Mhm.
quote another movie about AI, you are without a doubt the dumbest smart person I have ever met. Like,
Yeah,
how would they not? Yeah, yeah, it's kind of almost a plot hole at that point. And I will also say that yeah, the one thing where Wonder Egg Priority suffers is the world building. And describing as much that we need to know to understand the emotions behind everything, they kind
Yeah.
of stumble a bit there. Yeah.
Was there anything more you wanted to say about Kaoru, Alice? Because I feel like we kind of drifted away from that.
We
And
did.
yeah.
Oh, was
I
that?
kind of had
Oh,
yeah.
I thought I was thinking
I had
Evangelion.
Oh well, I love that Kaoru, but I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah, me
mean
too.
Wonder Egg Kaoru.
I did notice those were weirdly similar, and that did make me happy. In
Yeah,
the back of my mind, I'm like, you picked that name because
Oh
you
yeah,
wanted.
they did.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was kind of two things. The first one was okay. I originally started watching because people were posting a single image with no context of Momoe with that very specific '80s looking ass jacket.
Oh, you mean the trans pride jacket?
That is explicitly like those are the well, I say explicitly, but those are happen to be the trans pride
That
colors.
is the flag.
Quite
So
literally the trans pride flag.
that was a very bad way to be introduced for me
Yeah.
because it actually made me not able to like Momoe as much as I probably would have because I was having to read Momoe through the lens of feeling like I had been kind of led around by the nose. So it was not when I got to the episode where we have an actual like explicitly trans character was not the best place for me to receive that. I had the little bit of the quibbles about the whole like why is he here if the Wonder Egg is always. I had not gotten the context for the fact that they are the ones deciding who goes in the eggs.
Right.
Oh god, that has even more questions. Um,
Assigning? Did you say that on purpose?
yes, I did have that context, so like that part of it was weird. It was a little weird that like this is very peccadillo, but like I remember looking at character and thinking to myself, I have seen this character design before. I had heard these exact lines before. Are you familiar? Have you ever heard of a manga from the '80s called Hibari-kun? Stop Hibari-kun.
No.
Yes, I have heard of Stop
No.
Hibari-kun. I mean, I have not read it, but I've heard
I'm
of
gonna.
it.
I'm not gonna try to say this word. It's like Cass could say it because I'm suck at words. I'm born in the South. It's Oto Kono. It is a Japanese word that we
Otoko no
essentially.
ko.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. It is a manga about someone who is kind of that archetype,
Yeah.
and they're at the end of the non posthumously published actual end of that manga that was not originally done because the magazine was part of like died. The last chapter is a character who is transmask introduced in frankly one of the funniest ways possible. And when I encountered Koru, I was thinking this feels like that character. This feels like a if I were trying to write this kind of character in the '90s, I would have given them the lines that this character has. I think at one point, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think that the Kaoru actually does the "but my heart is a man's heart" line, which
I believe that he says inside I'm a boy or something to
okay.
that effect.
I would want to know what the actual line in the Japanese is because the English translation, the formulation of it is really close to the exact formulation used in a lot of those kind of that whole subgenre of manga. So it was like it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just it was weird, if that makes sense. I felt kind of ambivalent about it. I wasn't sure how to read it, I guess.
I would say that when it comes to, because I know the way we talk about transgender people is a big
It's
issue.
extremely different. That is a huge cultural divide.
And
Yeah.
you do have to be aware that that's going to be different over not just across languages but across cultures of what's considered appropriate and what isn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know in English, that's a bit not outdated to say in English,
Yeah.
oh
It
this drag queen says that he has the heart of a woman. that's something maybe you would say in the 80s about a trans woman.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm talking about. Like,
Not something you would say
yeah, like
now.
it's
But in Japanese that might be a legitimate. Sorry, go
yes,
ahead.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I've been saying. Like,
I don't
it's not
know
so
if
much that
that's
like
yeah.
explicitly it's not a bad thing. There is a weirdness of translation here because the language that we use is very different, and trans people in Japan and trans people in North America, we do not use the same language not only to describe our situations, but also on a lot of different other points. And those two vocabularies have intermingled with each other in very complicated ways.
I know in the translation sphere especially. That's something that's on the translator, I think, to adjust in the subtitles or adjust in the dub script.
Yeah,
But I know
I tend
that's
to.
easier
I
said
tend to.
than done.
It's a strange moment, which kind of like caught me by surprise, and it was like there's a part of me that is not sure how to take this. The only thing I think that I had a genuinely not good reaction to that wasn't so much ambiguous but interesting, but actually kind of like I felt like was not that I didn't actually like the point at the end where he kisses her was I wasn't sure that I liked that partially because
He kind of just does it.
yeah, he kind of just does it, and not necessarily something that she has invited. It's weird. It's sort of like it doesn't fit well. I feel like it didn't fit quite as well as I wanted it to with Momoe's whole thing about having been approached by people in a sort of in a intimate context that she doesn't appreciate. I wasn't sure how to read that. I wasn't sure how to feel about it,
It would have been better if she had kissed him and
or
then
if she had
felt really good
done a
about
little
it or
or if she had
something,
done something because she seemed to enjoy it. Like she seemed to
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
like that it happened,
yeah.
which made it not be bad for me. But I kind of found myself like, damn, I really wish that they had done a little bit more to make it very obvious here that this was something she was inviting or wanted to happen before it happened, so that we don't have this weirdness of reconciling this with something else about her character, as well as the fact that like I'm not sure if it's a small thing. It's like a peccadillo. Like I don't really think it makes the episode bad.
If I want to be generous, I would say that I think that this is supposed to be like Kaoru affirming her as like,
Yeah,
You're a girl because you say you're a girl.
well, Momoe is a
You know?
girl and wants to be validated as a girl,
Yeah.
and is displaying interest in boys as a girl. And I think that what happens with Kaoru is him affirming her being a girl being kissed by a boy. And maybe I'm, you
No,
know,
that's how I read it. Yeah,
no,
that,
yeah,
that seems to be what they're going for.
yeah.
this is
Which is
how
fine.
I think that was supposed to be coming across, even though I also agree that it feels like there's a little more ambiguity in the like whether or not she actually wanted Kaoru to kiss her thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to. I don't think anyone. There's really not a reason to read it too uncharitably. I
Yeah,
think it's pretty
and
easy to
that's
read this
why.
charitably. Yeah, like the thing with the coat, like the way that they obviously made Kaoru like he's a fucking like he's a fucking '90s anime character down to his design, even his goddamn hair. He looks like a '90s character, and like
Well, he's trying to put his hair up in his hat.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I also kind of read that as like I couldn't help but read this as a Kalru as somebody they went to great care to show that Kalru is trying to embody something the value and aesthetic of something that he drew to him that a real person would be drawn to, and there's an obvious like desire there, intentionality there about doing this in a way that's not weird. So reading that charitably is not hard for me.
Yeah.
I think reading that charitably is probably the correct course there.
Yeah, I love that episode.
I
Personally.
know a lot of people have responded very positively to that episode.
I just thought it was nice for the character of Momoe that
Yeah,
that being seen as a woman and the gender identity that is brought up by
Yeah.
that lets her figure
She's
herself out
a
more.
yeah, being treated as a girl because she says she's a girl and she doesn't have to do anything to prove that to people. And just
Yeah.
someone saying, "Oh, you're a girl? Okay then. You're a girl." That's kind of the whole takeaway from that episode in general. You're a boy? Okay, you're a boy. You say you're a girl, then I'm going to treat you as a girl, And because that's
Yeah.
what she struggles with the whole series, is people treating her one way because of how she looks. And no matter how she seems to try to alter her behavior, it never really works out for her up until that point.
I actually mentioned this with Cass on the railway earlier, outside when I was out for smoke. I was thinking about this episode specifically, and also Momoe specifically, like her whole thing. And I was kind of saying that I feel like I feel like a lot of people, specifically a lot of weeby trans women of my cohort, wanted to read into that story a shared experience. And I kind of felt like it was this weird case of like, you can have two similar experiences that are different enough that like they don't quite intersect. Like
Yeah.
the one needing to be read as feminine, needing to be read as a woman, as a trans person, and wanting to be read a certain way, a similar situation if you are kind of what society would refer to as tomboyish or some other kind of quote unquote disqualifying sort of way of being a woman in the eyes of a very old, outdated kind of patriarchal viewpoint. Like these are similar experiences, but it kind of occurred to me for me was eye opening that these are similar enough that I can that I can begin to understand a thing, but also realizing for me that like these experiences are different enough that they cannot necessarily be equated. I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to
Yeah.
match your
Yeah.
experiences,
Exactly.
right? So
I feel like because I remember I've talked to a couple of trans women and seen what some of them said, and like there was this mixed reaction to that disconnect, and kind of realizing no, I don't think it needs to completely connect to be able to be readable, I guess, as an experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same.
sure.
Well, without having spoken to your friends, and I'm not going to make any assumptions on them, but sometimes that just comes down to a media literacy thing with some people.
Yeah, there's also that desperate need to like you want to see yourself reflected in things really badly
Yeah.
if you are not generally reflected in them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes this can make your readings of things fraught.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
invalid, but fraught.
And I'm certain, who's to say that I'm not, that me or anybody else is not just as a subject to that. I've talked before about how similar I've felt that my middle school girlfriend was to, and how that reminds me to Madoka and Homura, and that absolutely can color my interpretation of Madoka and the Rebellion movie and everything else. So,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
media. You bring your
Yeah,
own experiences
exactly.
to it.
That's
Everybody's gonna
media.
have a different
Exactly.
engagement with the thing.
It's pretty
I
normal.
use the example.
Yeah.
I did a panel about this at Otakon, and I used the example of Free, the swimming anime. And
Yeah.
like, how many of you are into the like Fujoshi admiring the girls with muscles? And I was like, how many of you are competitive swimmers that understand what they're going through? Oh, me? Oh, I did that? Yeah. Okay. So, and it invites both. Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
was earlier trying to transition us into Rika because I don't know if that's where you want to
Oh,
go with
yeah.
your thing, but it seems
Yeah.
like a very good,
I would
easy
love to talk about
transition
Rika.
to
Yeah.
self harm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cuz Rika, Rika, my baby girl, Rika. I went into this show, and as soon as we met Rika, I was like, Rika's got to come out of this okay, or we're not going to make it.
You had a personal attachment. I see.
We as a group of people watching the show are not going to survive if Rika doesn't make it out of this all right, and I think she does.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with the last
Yeah,
episode, but we're
yeah.
on Rika right now.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I attached to Rika because she's a meme queen, and
She's
she
great.
was like, she's like,
She's
I was like,
amazing.
could I be an idol? And Rika's like, got nice thighs.
You can be a backup dancer.
Yeah, that was where she endeared herself to me.
Rika, of course, is the former junior idol. She loves to remind everybody about that. And she does not know. We find out that she lives in a not great household with an alcoholic mother, does not know who her dad is, has never met her dad. and does not spend a lot of time at home, it seems, as a result of her not getting along well with her mom. Kind of a wayward youth in every meaning of the word, I would say. And I love her and she's wonderful. And she's trying to revive her one of her fans who she found out was shoplifting and basically stealing money in order to buy Rika stuff. And Rika got so upset at her that she said some very not nice things about her fan's body and weight. And this drove her fan to basically, I don't know if it was kind of unclear if it was really a suicide or if it was just a death by eating disorder situation.
Well, I mean, I think that it gets kind of gray in that area, but
Yeah,
like I think that by the show's standards, it could probably be considered a
considered a
like
suicide.
suicide via eating disorder or
Especially
by
if you're
intentional starvation.
especially if you're Aka or Uraka and you're not gonna necessarily
Oh yeah, especially
maybe
if you're
be
a
very nice.
fucking shithead.
Especially if you're like, oh, you're not eating? Okay, I guess you don't want to eat. You know, like if you're one of those kind of people, one of those
Yeah.
Sam Kinison kind of assholes, like that kind of perspective on eating disorders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we love her. I love her.
Yeah, and her thing is all like guilt based. I think
Yes.
there's so much of that in her that is very relatable too. At least that's what I found.
Yeah.
We find out fairly early on that she self harms, or at least has a history of self harming, because she has
Yeah.
a large amount of scars on the inside of her upper arms, and that this is why she's always wearing a jacket to cover up her scars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just a very endearing character. She's kind of one of those characters that we were talking a little bit about earlier, of like this annoying bitch character who shows up and is like annoying the crap out of me, except they make her very sympathetic very quickly. So I never got
Yeah,
to the
there were
point.
plenty of times that I wanted her to shut the fuck up, but like
I
I
mean,
still loved
yeah,
her.
it's fast. Like it's whiplash. Like the
Yeah.
first thing she does after we meet her is nonstop talk about how this one person is the most disgusting person on earth and how much she's a like all kinds of ways of obviously it's gross because she is fat. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I really hate this person. Why God do we have to be with her the whole show? And then 2 episodes later it's like, oh, she's great. Like it's
Yeah.
whiplash how fast that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a great character to be able to do that. Like what a so that's good writing. Like crafting a character in that way. Sorry, go ahead, Kai.
No, you're totally right. And her
Yeah.
asking for money too is another big thing. It's just like what the yeah. But she gets her moment in the spotlight in episode 7 and all that stuff with her dad and her mom and her past with her fan is comes to a head, and her kind of resolution or movement forward is the monster of the day is this like cult thing, right? That's like just come with us and we'll take away all the pain, make it so it doesn't matter and anything anymore. And yeah, she rejects that ultimately, by the growth of being with her friends and the relationships she's built to her very cute turtle kind of comes out of that. And it's a real great moment that I think on Twitter I saw a lot of people connected with that type of mindset very deeply.
You know that meme of the turtle with the knife duct taped to its back? No. No.
No.
That's
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Let me find it.
Yeah.
The battle turtle.
What is this, an assassin in fucking Dune world, or like you need the blade to be slow?
Here it is. I found it. Hold on.
I hope this doesn't disrespect Manen because he's the best.
Manen is the best, and that's why.
Oh, did you notice that Aya's lizard was named Leon, like
I
Star
did.
Fox?
Oh god, I didn't make the connection.
Yeah,
Oh, I
my
didn't
friend
make
brought
that
that up.
connection.
Oh,
Oh,
did you
Oh, I'm
realize
so mad.
that? Okay, are you ready for this? The portal that you can see it most in episode 12. That when she's doing the whole thing against in episode 12, that's literally the Sailor Moon transformation background art.
Yes,
with all
I saw that for
that
Is
was
it
sure.
like,
really the
oh
exact?
man.
Because it looked pretty damn similar, but I didn't notice
I'm
if it
neither
was
here nor there. I'm
exactly
waiting
the
for this
same.
turtle. I'm waiting for this turtle, to be honest with you.
I didn't know this image was this goddamn big, or that my internet was this slow.
Look it up. Look it
Oh,
oh, there
there
you
it
go.
is.
It's for the audio podcast, it's
There's
a
Lennon.
turtle with a switchblade duct taped
It's
onto its
very
back.
good.
This thing is screaming at me to make Dune references about it. I see that Gurney Hollick has another student who knows the way of the slow blade.
Okay, so back on
yeah.
topic somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to have it interrupted. Who is talking? Please continue. Whoever
I don't
whoever
know
wants
who wants to stand up for Rika in the same way that we can, stand up for Momo.
I mean, I love Rika. I think
Yeah.
most people come to love Rika, even though, like, I still find her frustrating in some ways. Like, but I mean, she's a fucking 14-year-old girl.
Right.
Like,
She's not a great
what
person yet. Yeah. But she's getting there.
what 14-year-old isn't frustrating?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. And I think too that her particular issues were so very clear and so very relatable to so many people that it's hard to misinterpret Rika in the same way that maybe we don't get a lot of like Ai's internal monologue, but we kind of see a lot of Rika's actions that let
Yeah.
us know what she's thinking. I think, well, if you want to transition, I think Nehru suffers from the same thing that she
Oh,
is very
there
kept.
is one thing about Rika that I just wanted to say, like, just how sad it is that she still continues to believe in her dad right up to the end.
Yeah.
What does she say at the end of the episode? What is it? Where does she leave it? I don't remember.
I don't remember, but like her insight on in her family situation is so poor. She's just
I mean, you could have just said her insight is so poor.
yeah, but it is. It
You know,
is.
you say that, but it's weird. It's kind of ironic because like when she's talking to her friends, she's right most of the time, and then she's this one thing about when she comes to her own like family situation, she's just very wrong.
Yeah. She can't see the speck of dust in her own eye
Well,
or
Yeah.
something.
it all she's got is this idealized concept of what her dad could be like. That's all she has.
Does she cling to that at the end of episode 7? I don't remember that being a thing. I think like she does. It displays it in episode 7, but I don't know it's brought up
I get
after.
kind of a mix. Are you talking by the end of episode 7? Are you talking about where she's grabbing onto the fence and crying?
No,
Is that what
that's
you mean?
before the climax of episode 7 where she kind of turns the corner and is like, I'm gonna live, and I'm
What do
finds her
what do
own
you mean
new
by the
way.
end?
I mean, like, after she has that monster of the day revelation that she doesn't wanna just surrender, she wants to live,
Oh,
that does
she does
she
that because of
need her dad?
Manon. She does that because of
Yeah,
Manon. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and then she kind of, like, has something else and this is the quintessential magical girl thing, that the journey you start off with is not the journey that you need or not just magical girl thing, but it comes up a
Story
lot
thing
in
in
these
general, yeah.
situations. Yeah, that you find something worth fighting for, and in Madoka Magica, like this, Sayaka thinks she's fighting for Kyosuke and save her, but she doesn't find anything that would be worth fighting for, and Kyoko tries to give her something that's worth fighting for, to live for.
Mhm.
And Mommy kind of lacks that too. She doesn't have anything other than living itself. That she tries to find that in Madoka. And okay, this isn't a Madoka Magica thing, but like Rika just has her unresolved stuff with her fan and her father and her mother being shitty. But the end of episode 7 is kind of like living with the fact that their relationship isn't the best with her mother, and it's living with the fact that her or episode 12 is or 13,
Oh,
the special
now I'm
episode, sorry, is
remembering. Yeah.
like the fan isn't what she's
Yeah,
looking for, and then
at the end of 7, she tells her mom, I'll abandon you someday, but not yet," is what she
yeah,
tells her
yeah,
mom.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
that feels like
yeah,
what she's doing with her father. Like she
yeah.
knows that it's just something that she clung to or she needed, but then she doesn't need it so much.
Yeah, that's true. It's possible that by the end of that episode, she's maybe gained a little bit of insight. I was just talking about in general, like, leading up to that,
Oh yeah, yeah,
her
yeah.
her as a
Oh, totally.
character, like, the way that she has nothing else as smart as she is and as insightful as she has nothing else to really
She's
hope for
obsessed. Yeah.
other than to it's plain as day that your dad is a piece of shit who abandoned you and your mom, and that none of what he says is good advice, and you shouldn't listen to anything you remember him saying, and forget it. You're never going to meet him. That's
Right.
the smart thing. And I feel like if she was speaking to anyone other than herself, Rika herself would be able to tell somebody that, but she
Right.
can't tell
Yeah.
that to herself.
That's great. That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
But I think she comes to a place where she does find that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Rika.
She's good.
Stand Rika. Rika's good. Anyway, yes, maybe moving on to Nero.
So I think that Nehru was my favorite in the thing, even though I think episode 9 that focuses on Nehru and Kotobuki was kind of not the best episode. It may be the weakest episode out of Wonder Egg Priority.
I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I actually really liked that
You
episode.
liked all the riding on the snake and the sci-fi talk and all the like genius girls are different and
I don't know, I recognize that it's not one of the better episodes of the series maybe, but I really like the relationship between Neru and Kotobuki,
yes.
and in a way I feel like it's weird that Neru's whole Wonder Egg incident involves her sister when it feels like it should have
It should have been Kotobuki.
been Kotobuki, and I don't know why.
Yeah, that was weird to me too.
Oh, I know why.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe you can tell me.
Who do you think Nehru's sister is?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I don't know because I thought I knew. I thought that maybe they were referring to Kotobuki in a weird way, even though
Right. Yeah, I think that's what the show wants you to think, and especially in episode 9.
the vibes I get from them are not sisterly, but I'm also very predisposed to other sorts of readings in that way. But like
Well, episode 13 has some like plot dialogue about that, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah, wait, hold on.
she created her or
well,
something.
I've only watched episode 13 once, and so
Yeah.
I'm willing to admit that there's things that I might have missed, but after the whole introduction of the other Nehru sister or whatever, I wasn't sure how to feel about all that. But I don't know. I never really felt like it was 100%. I mean, I know that lots of stuff in this show is ambiguous, but I never got the impression that maybe that there was the confirmation that Kotobuki was supposed to be the sister in question, even though I don't know, I felt like maybe some of the language used in all of this was a little more ambiguous than I would have liked for this specific sort of.
Well, when I said when I said that Kotobuki should have been the sister, what I mean by that is in the sense of cut out all this extra shit that we don't have time for.
Oh, okay, rewrite it to
Sure.
make Kotobuki
Yeah,
the
you know what I
sister.
mean.
Yeah,
You know what I mean,
sure.
like so that we can keep the series nice and focused and have a nice, concise ending.
Right.
I felt like it was just sort of a little all
It
over the place
makes
with
sense
that.
if Nehru's going to have a dead person in the basement that she's conflicted about. It should be the person connected to what her deal is. Like,
Right.
unless you're going to add another 10 episodes,
Like we never see the statue of Nehru's person who died, right?
yeah,
Like so
yeah,
we don't know that, but it's not Kotobuki. We do so
right.
it so here's what I think happens. Like in episode 9, you are meant to believe that Kotobuki is the sister, and that there's this big emotional moment of I staying with her as she pulls the plug on her, and that's like its whole thing. Then in episode 13, there's this what the fuck scene of her on the couch, and she's like, let's watch Nehru's dream where she actually does her person that she was fighting for. And then there's lines of like Kotobuki. I'm flipping through it, but I can't find it right now. But it's like Kotobuki is deconfirmed as the sister, and
Yeah.
there's some line that she influenced the creation of Nehru or something.
Yeah.
As the android.
I thought the sister was the person who was the sort of basis for what they based the original version of Nero on.
So you say Iru when you say sister. You mean Iru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
No, I thought. Yeah.
okay, that may be. I don't know
That was
one way or
that
the
was
other,
kind of
but-
how I took it, is what I meant.
I
by
thought that's
that.
what they meant, but
Okay,
I might
okay,
be
okay.
horribly off base
Well,
here.
yeah, and we'd have to like go line by line and really drill down into the mechanics of it. But I believe you come out of episode 13 thinking that Iru is the sister they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I propose to you now,
Yeah,
and
I know what
what
you're gonna
I
say.
got Yeah. Oh, because you already
Yeah.
know, because it makes so much sense, right? Like, think
Yeah.
about it in your mind. Like,
I know
there's
what you're
this
gonna
whole
say.
scene of Nehru talking to
I don't
Frill
like
and is
it.
like, "Will
I
you
don't
be my
like it.
friend?" And it's
Yeah.
like this. Yeah, it's the whole. It's like it's clear as day. Sets up this Nehru or Frill redemption scene with Nehru, and that's why she leaves at the end of the show. It's like. Here's one other thing that my friend brought up.
He's saying that Frill is Nehru's sister.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, in
Thank
case that's not clear.
You gotta be roundabout about it. It's Wonder Egg parody. So there's one other thing.
Not sure how I feel about that, but go on.
There is a contextual evidence that points directly to it, a symbol, and that is of the teddy bear that is in Frill's story and is shown on her bed, on the chair, and then you see again in the Nehru lab in her house on the medical beds, in I think episode 7 or 9. I don't know, but yeah. So
It's episode 9.
okay, so that is in and of itself implied semiotically too. So I feel good with it. I feel like that gives me the Frill redemption big boss battle that I want to see, and it feeds into what happens in episode 13 too, and kind of what I was talking about in that podcast, Amanda, of like
Mhm.
the bad end. And kind of the other reason why episode 13 was so reviled, I suppose. And that's just that
It's the bad
Momoe.
end. They gave us the bad end. They didn't give us the good end.
Right. You don't
Yeah.
get this resolution of everything.
Yeah.
Momoe and Rika don't even want to fucking do anything about that. They're like, no, we're done. We don't want to go through any more hardships. We don't want to do anything else. And there's so many shots of Ai just trying to call Nehru, and then when Nehru finally calls, she chucks the thing off the edge of the thing, and that got me. That was like, oh.
I didn't understand that at all.
Oh, well,
It just didn't feel earned, to be honest with you, up until that point.
I suppose maybe that's what we're going back, or the way it felt earned to me was everything we were talking about in the first part of this episode, or this
Mhm.
episode of the Madoka Magicast, with everything with her being indecisive on how she should deal with her issues.
Okay. Yeah.
And then seeing Momoe and Rika both say they're not going back to fight for Nehru. They do not want to do that anymore. And that if it ended on that solid bad end without the epilogue scene of 2 years later or whatever it is, months later or whatever, then I would have been severely upset, because that's episode 9 of Madoka Magica. That's the nadir of everything with the characters, everything that you've been building up to, of all this friendship, of all them playing in the arcade, of them overcoming their issues together through the understanding each other, and Nehru and Rika going out for ramen at the end of her episode. It's all of that thrown out the window, literally thrown off the balcony as
And that's what I think you're literally stating what most people are going to tell you why they don't like this episode.
yeah, the bad end,
You
right?
know.
And
Yeah.
but yeah, and there's no other episodes after it. Like it can be the nadir, and it can be this most bad point of all these characters and the lowest point. But you just need to then resolve the things. You need to resolve all the plot. You need to
Yeah.
hold the Urakas and everything, and then so that's what when I turns to the camera and says, Oto is back, and that's what I see. She's going to take up that call.
I rolled my eyes so hard.
Yeah, it was kind of cheesy. It was.
Yeah.
Alice and Panda, what do you think about everything that has just been discussed?
I was actually curious, like, about that specifically towards the end. Like, do you guys see there being really any believable path if they were to get a season 2 or a movie or something? Do you see a believable path for the band to get back together, or are we kind of moving beyond? Has society moved past the need for Momo and Rika?
Do you mean like you're talking about, like, let's say a season 2 does happen. Now you mean like
some kind of continuation of
yeah. I think that it would be very unwise to not include them in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% yes. I feel they will be recruited by
As much as you can argue that from a academic viewpoint that their arcs are done and they've had happy endings, we don't want that. We want to see all 4 girls fighting in a group. Now
I was
listen,
trying to figure out how
Kai.
to make it work.
Yes, listen, Kai and anybody else. I understand that maybe that's not the big stupid anime ending is not what the show wants to do with its ending. But and if that's the case, this still isn't a very good way of ending off with either of those characters, in my opinion. And I would argue you can't give us big stupid anime fight scenes through the whole series and then not expect people to be upset when you don't have a cool big stupid anime fight scene in the finale.
The last
So
episode is just eye in the rain. It's like, yeah, where's
like,
the
come
flashy
on,
colors?
we are watching anime. This is a pulp medium.
Exactly.
I remind
Yeah.
people of this all the time when I'm talking about anime and manga. Guys, it's not rocket science here, okay? It's okay to have a big cool fight scene at the end of your anime,
Yeah,
and it can
so
be
we have
smart.
literally come at last to my post-it note, my other post-it note that I have here. And that is that I feel that whole ending there, that you know, that negative thing on Momo and Rika and even I, and then not having a big fight scene, not having a resolution to any of these questions that they've raised. I liked the episode not only because it was well directed, not only because that is a really cool thing for their characters to, you know, need to reject it and then figure out the value of supporting Nehru and all the time that they shared together in their friendship. But it's bold. It's so ballsy to end your anime that already had production problems like that with with just shots of Ai looking at her phone in the rain. And that takes so much either like knowledge that you're going to be able to continue this story and actually give a real ending that you damn well know that you haven't done, or that you're like pleading to the fans that there be enough fan pressure that Aniplex is going to write you a check to to keep going with Wonder Egg Priority. Either way, they could have tried to resolve it in the 20 minutes or, you know, that they had to do this last episode 13. They didn't even try, and that's like the coolest thing in the world.
So you like the episode purely because it does such a good job trolling its audience?
Yes, it's a huge middle finger. It's like a panty and stocking ending almost. It's like, fuck y'all, we're not gonna end
Well,
this.
I
well,
can't even have it. I can't even not like it because I've had the same kind of reading. I feel like I don't have it here because it feels less like a troll and more like a, oh Jesus Christ, no one's known what to do about any of this for 3 months.
Sure,
Oh Christ,
sure.
we forgot we lost all of our notes after the third episode. But I don't blame you because sometimes when you read something as a troll that big, it's hard not to have a weird kind of love for that sort of trolling, even if it's terrible.
Yeah, if it's not incompetence, then it's really cool and
I
really
don't
artsy.
ever. I have to say, I don't ever appreciate being trolled by a TV show. So maybe the joke's on me. But anytime at a TV show, I feel like I've been trolled. It always pisses me off and never makes me
I'm
happy.
definitely there with you, Amanda.
I'm never impressed by a
I don't want
troll
to
ending.
reduce it to a troll though, because it has like narrative weight for the characters and being this nadir and functioning for that. So it's not just a troll; it's just breaking the conventions in a way that's really upsetting and really makes this story feel incomplete.
I don't know. I'd lean into the troll. Like, I mean, like we can call it we can call it like disrupting or breaking convention, but I mean, it is kind of a troll. Like, I mean, we can call it playing jazz if we wanted, but it's still their own notes.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Is like, did they plan
Yeah.
it from the beginning? Did they sit there and say,
No. No
"We've
way
got
in
12
hell.
Well,
No.
hold
No.
on, hold on,
No.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute.
Okay.
Because if you have 12 episodes, you're going in thinking you have 12 episodes. And like Gen Urobuchi, when he's writing Madoka Magica, 12 episodes. All right, episode 12, Madoka and all the thing and all the resolution for everything that we've built up over this. Bam, done. So are you going in? So if we assume that there's a couple of possibilities here, there's a couple of paths. One is they intended to do this from the beginning, and whether or not they have secured already a continuation of the series, or they're begging for it, doesn't really matter. Just they always plan to end it like this, and that's a spicy meatball. Two is that they somewhere along the line with the production, they were like, oh shit, the story is not going to be able to be told in the time that we're going to tell. What are we going to do? Are we going to rush this story, or are we going to pun it and not finish the story, but give it all the time it needs to breathe. And it's like, either way, that's still so aggressive of an artsy choice for an already confusing series with these, the production issues that it's I don't know.
I'd almost buy it if it weren't for the 1-2 punch of the fact that the special is 22 minutes of recap, and
Yeah.
yeah, if it weren't for like that, having 2 recap episodes in a single season, essentially, and also like how some of the like the last half really struggles with a lot of its internal like pacing internally within episodes, I'd almost buy it. I'd almost buy it as a gambit of we always intended to finish this on an extremely unsatisfying note, to as a kind of deliberate attempt to buck this specific convention here. I'd almost buy it. It's just I could buy it being an intention that they had wanted to do something of that nature, and that the production problems fucked whatever they were going to do so badly that the result we have is an extremely compromised version of that. I'd buy that because I mean, whatever their intention was, we did get sort of an extremely compromised version of whatever it
Yeah.
was because of
Yeah.
the production values. Like it's almost I don't know. Like I could see it, but it stretches my credulity a little bit.
Can I tell you how close I am to doing like the cringiest weeb shit of all time? And that's the director is on Twitter, and he was posting all about like, holy shit, this was a tough thing to do. And he even made a message in English on his Twitter of like, thank you all for watching Wonder Egg Priority and stuff. I am like so close to just DMing him on Twitter and saying, in broken Japanese, just like, give me some hint on whether you knew what you were doing when you made this special episode not a resolution.
Maybe Amanda can help you with your Japanese.
Just give me some hint, please. Just the tiniest thing.
Well, you say that, but I might have something for you.
Oh.
I have not read them yet, but I do know that New Type, the August issue of New Type,
Yes, I saw that.
it might not be anything, but I would
Right.
love to see if anybody listens to this and you happen to know Japanese and or have a subscription to New Type magazine.
You
One,
can buy
you're
it
very
online.
cool.
Yep.
Two, if you have the time.
Yup, read it and translate the relevant part, please.
I would not be surprised if somebody translated the New Type interview, because that's just how anime fandom is, and I know that
Someone will translate it.
this fandom in particular for Wonder Egg Priority has been rather enthusiastic.
This show is a messy bitch, and people want to read about messy bitches.
It's true.
If I know anything
Yeah.
in life.
It's true.
Oh, it's true.
Anyway, the story of Wonder Egg Priority is not finished, and that's either the story
Yeah.
of the show or the story of the meta narrative kind of carnival that its production has been. So I'm still eagerly awaiting, and maybe we have to wait 10 years, maybe we do before
God.
the next chapter. But I would
I hope
love to
not.
see what comes next.
Yeah, I would love to see a continuation. I really would. And maybe I'm willing to keep watching it and to give any kind of continuation another shot, but I'm skeptical at this point. I'm not going to go into it with the most charitable mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be more cynical about what I'm watching, because before the final episode, I was probably willing to try to theory craft away most of my issues with the show.
Yeah, I know that when I messaged Amanda and told her that word on the street was that it was going to be largely recap, she was not even worried necessarily, and neither was I, honestly,
Yeah.
before watching.
I have a similar faith in the production team, or at least the creative leads of this project. It seemed like such a passion project and something that really shouldn't exist. So
I wonder if it's theoretically possible to get some sort of resolution by way of like,
don't say audio dramas.
well, like an audio drama or like a tie-in manga or a light novel.
I hope not, because you'd lose so much of what made
Yeah,
it
I don't.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that statement because I think that one of the strongest aspects about this show is just how fucking good the animation is. But like at the same time, I imagine that attempting to go through one of those avenues to try and finish up the story would maybe be a little more feasible on a in a budget perspective, but I hope not, because I feel like that would be doing a disservice to the show. But I would also not be surprised if I heard that announced.
Jeez. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I gotta be honest, I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Let's cross our fingers and hope not.
Yeah.
I would hope that they don't have the same production team, because like the actual producer people, the ones who were supposed to manage the workflow here, because if they do, man, they will be boned.
Yeah.
They did well. It was a lot of
Now,
people new to
guys, I know that
running an
we
anime.
I know that we were doing this literally. I know that we like slave drove you the whole time, and then had to hire mercenary work. But hey, this time will be different.
I
First
hope
off,
they learned something.
we've moved your houses closer, and by closer I mean inside of the building ahead of time.
Well, I mean,
without
like, if
asking
we
you.
really, like, I know that we do not, in any sense of the word, have any time to get into it, but the problem is also, like, the abysmal conditions of the anime industry on the
Yeah.
whole.
Oh,
Like,
totally. Yeah, and
like, I imagine if things were not so fucking horrible, in that regard, that we would be seeing a much different show.
yeah. And
Yeah.
here's the another thing that I've written down. It's like I don't want to excuse it, but it does feel like something that, like, if it didn't exist in this kind of not dumpster fire, but kind of dumpster fire kind of production state, then it just would have never existed a unique original anime like this. And I just want to be the production guy that had to sit on the Aniplex board and be like, oh yeah, it's I think it's first time director. We're gonna go with all these new people. It's gonna be the next Madoka Magica. You're gonna love it. It's gonna talk about all these taboo issues. Don't worry about it.
Aniplex did kind of throw them to the wind.
Now cut
Yeah.
cut the check. Keep the check coming. Yeah.
So, do we have any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I really hope that there is some sort of follow up, because there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not the end of the Wonder Egg priority story. Whether or not it ends up being the actual end of the anime, like, I think, if it never gets any sort of follow up, we can just chalk it up to a kind of a disappointment on a what could have been like one of the best new anime that has come out in a long time.
See, that's the thing I'm most upset about. That the narrative now is going to be a Wonder Egg priority. Oh yeah, that really good looking anime that's totally incomplete and lost its way. And it's like, until we get that final resolution, that's going to be the thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're just going to struggle to recommend it to people because, yeah, it does.
And I think that's one of the saddest things for me, is that, like, if I want to tell somebody that I think they would like it, I do have to. It's a little bit like recommending Twin Peaks prior to 2017, was you have to kind of like prepare people gently for what they will see at the very end.
And it's almost like Madoka, except I could recommend Madoka to people and tell them to not watch Rebellion Story.
Yeah, Madoka
Yeah,
has
yeah,
the benefit
yeah.
of, like, the
That's the thing.
anime of Madoka is a fully complete story in
There's
and of
no way.
itself.
Yeah, there's no fully complete Wonder Egg that's gonna
Yeah.
do it, you know?
Yet, and this is what I said. I said, what's his face? Jeff Thu, the Mother's Basement guy, tweeted out, and I said, but if there was a sequel film involving Nero and Frill and I rallying Momo and Rika to save Nero and everything we talked about before, like, if that film existed, or when it exists, then Wonder Egg priority. I have faith that that film would close everything up together and be probably one of my favorite anime of all time.
So
Yeah.
now let's say it's another troll and it has nothing to do with any of that. What
if it's
then?
like a spin-off
Yeah.
of
Like
it's
4
like
brand new characters.
oh man,
Like
it's a it's the when's the Madoka spin-off airing? The freaking you remember when Sayaka showed up at the end of the 12th episode of that? That was so fucking stupid.
I
Okay,
didn't
let's
watch
go.
past episode 4,
Good.
so I don't know.
It wasn't
Gotta
bad.
watch it for the show though.
Yeah.
Anyway, my final thoughts on Wonder Egg. I am hoping for some continuation because I want there to be some kind of ending that feels more satisfying than what we have right now. But I have to say, I don't really have faith in them to necessarily give me what I want anymore. And that's not a good feeling. That's not I don't like. I never wanted to feel that way.
Yeah, like my faith level
Yeah.
after episode 12 came out and I knew that there would be 3 months to wait for the last episode was pretty high.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took a nosedive.
That's what I'm saying about interpreting this 13 as bold, this special episode as bold, because then it restores my faith in the creative team and in their vision. And then I can know that the next
Sounds
bit
like
will
you're
be great.
coping.
Maybe I can't see my own problems.
Alice, do you have any final thoughts?
If they get another shot, which I don't think is likely, but if they do, I hope it goes well. I don't have a lot of faith that it will go well, but I hope it will go well.
I want it to go
I will
well.
probably not be watching it unless a lot of people whose taste I trust tell me I should. But here's looking at you, kid.
See, that's ridiculous because you're already committed to doing another one of these episodes on this with us three again.
We
You know
trapped
what?
you in a podcast-shaped prison.
Yeah, I'll agree. If they do if they do any kind of thing, I will come to any podcast that wants me, and I will talk about it. I will watch it as it is simulcast.
Nice.
I guess we'll
For
just
at
have to
least
see
the
what
first episode.
that new type article says, huh?
Ooh, I need
I'm
to know.
crossing my fingers.
Okay, well, that's going to be it for us from tonight. Because
Thank
I
God.
do need to go to bed. Thank you guys so much for joining us, Kai and Alice. It was super, super fun to listen to you guys, your thoughts, and to discuss everything with you. Wonder Egg Priority. Check it out or don't check it out. Or why are you listening to this if you haven't watched it? I guess you're a bit crazy. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us, Kai and Alice. I couldn't remember names, I promise. It is midnight, so please forgive me.
You got a minute.
Yeah. I guess I do, you're right.
Quick, hurry up. Got it at
11:59.
midnight. Got it at midnight.
Oh!
Otherwise, the podcast will
Thank
turn
you.
back into a pumpkin.
Thank you for listening to Madoka Magicast. You can follow us on social media at Madoka Magicast. You can follow me on social media at Lambda Power. Follow Kai on social media at Clear and Sweet. Panda is Pandanata. Alice is Lyrewolf. Lyre.
WULF.
Thank you for listening. We love you. Boom.
Do you want to plug anything else, or have we turned into a
Yeah.
pumpkin?
No, midnight, out of time, midnight.
All right. We love everyone. Thank you for listening. And thank you guys for joining me once again.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.